today we've got a lower unit here that's got water in it. It's non-functional now, and we get a lot of calls on this repair on how to change your lower unit. You can replace your armatures and stuff and your seal kits, but a lot of times when it gets water, it's kind of hard to get all the corrosion and stuff out, and this customer has elected to change his lower unit. So we're going to show you how. This is one of the simpler repairs, yet we still get a lot of questions on performing it. This will be for any Ultrex shaft exchange. One thing to remember when you're ordering your shaft is this one has the universal 2 sonar, but in the case that you're going to change your shaft, you've got to stick with the shaft length that you've got. This is a 45, and the reason being is the base is made for the 45, but if you have a 52 and a 60, the base for the 52 and the 60 are the same. So if you're running a 52 at this point, if you're changing the shaft, you could run a 60. And another thing is that you could upgrade while you're in here is if you have the universal sonar, you could upgrade to the mega down or mega side imaging at this point. This customer's elected to stay with the universal sonar. So pretty much we're going to remove the 4 screws. To remove this cap, there's going to be a screw here, and this cap will pop off after we unsecure the wiring, and then we'll slide the shaft out. And we're kind of mimicking it on a boat. If you can deploy it on your boat, this can be done on the boat. If not, you're going to have to remove the steering motor and the motor assembly and get it off the boat. So at this point, we've removed the cap, the 4 screws for the cap. There's 4, and you'll see this black and yellow connection. At this repair, you don't have to connect it, but I like to disconnect it. That way it's not slinging around and causing you extra weight. And it's just a simple plug-in. And then you'll see we've got a black and red connection. You'll take that loose, and you'll remove your blue covers, and then you're going to have a ground up here that you usually twisted. So on this, all you've got to remove is the connection that's going into the shaft assembly, and it's always heat shrink, so a good razor blade and removing the. So you're also going to have your universal sonar in this case. If you've got the mega down or mega side, you will need to unplug it from the side that's going into the lower unit. So that's all the unplugging. You'll have these 4 wires coming down out of your lower unit. So at this point, all we've got to remove is this screw. There's a screw on this side, Phillips screw, with a bolt or with a nut on this side. We'll remove that, and this head will totally remove. Sometimes this one's a little hard to get pushed back through. A lot of times I put a little pressure in the back, and it's still not working. I am going to have to tap it with a little hammer. after I remove that, the nut come out of this side. Usually it stays in there, so a lot of times when you pull this off, it'll fall out. So now this is ready to disassemble, and just make sure your wires run through there. And I'll lay this back to the side. And now all we have holding this lower unit is your depth collar. This one's going to be a little difficult to get off because in this instance, this shaft on this one is fractured. So I will work it down so you get that off. And just remember that if you are performing this on the boat and you have live scope and all that, of course you want to remove that before you get to this point. But on this instance, we're just mimicking it on a boat. So I've got it down, it's resting. At this point, if you are doing it on a boat and you might want to get a second set of hands, that way you can hold this up. And at this point, because we can't lower it enough to come out of the steering housing, I am going to halfway stow this motor. You've got to be very careful because this is spring loaded, and at this point it will slide out. Just remember when that pressure is off there, that spring. So now at this point we have it removed. I've already unboxed our new lower unit. Now you can see that once you get in here, you can see there's two teeth where they will slide down in this groove. That is to secure it and make sure it's steering properly. So the biggest thing is I always like to leave this taped so it'll feed through the steering motor as easily as possible, because if you unwrap this, they're gonna be everywhere and sometimes they get hung up going back in. So what I'll try to do is I will stow it to where I can start feeding the wires. And remember, it is a little easier if you got some help. So in this case, we got the teeth in. At this point, I will lock my lower unit in. And I'm fortunate enough to have it be able to rest on the ground. So this customer also, you can see this is the old style depth collar. It's very painful and aggravating after these get some time on them to adjust that depth. Last year they came out, I guess it's been 2 years ago. We've got the new depth collar, and I will put the part number and link in the comments to our website so you can order this. But this one has really upgraded it, and you can move the depth of your trolling motor with ease. So you'll slide it on. So you'll just make sure that there's a notch there. Sometimes on these I will have to adjust this collar because they come from the factory pretty tight. And you can see how easy that slides on. And then one thing I love about this depth collar, look at that, how easy. Now we're good. So we've got this. So all we gotta do now is feed our wires back through the bottom housing. As you can tell, I've still got them taped. I actually won't untape them until I'm ready to connect them. You got your one long bolt. Now at this point, I'm gonna lower mine so I can see in there. You'll notice that The screws got to come through the wires. So you really got to make sure that when you're screwing that in, that you're not going to get caught. I'm going to replace this screw. This one's bent. So like I said, that screw was bent, so we got a new one. Just remember, like I said before, make sure you split those wires and they're not in the way. So I'll get that started because there is a groove for this nut. And then I will take the back of my hand to get that started. And once it gets in there, it will tighten. You don't have to have a socket or ratchet or wrench. So at this point, we're ready to start connecting all our wiring back. So we can take this tape off from the factory. So I'll go ahead and connect our sonar back up. It's just one little connection, screw on, and then I will lay it in the bottom housing as so. And then one thing you want to do is these red and black wires, you want to twist them counterclockwise 3 times. As you can see, these from the factory are on this side, but they're not on your other. And the reason being is that you want to let this, it's kind of a weird scenario, but we have seen it in the shop, that when a customer brought it in after he changed his lower unit, and the issue was the spot lock not working. Come to find out it was because the wires were not twisted, and that just keeps your interference down on your negative and positive wire from interfering with your iPilot. So you just connect the red with the red and the black with the black, and then slide your covers. One thing I like to do is I'll push forward from this end and lay that down there. So it'll be as close to the bottom base as possible. So you've got your ground for your sonar. Remember, it had heat shrink. So we're going to want to heat shrink that back. Slide your heat shrink over the one end. Connect it. Just make sure there's nothing from that connection showing out of that heat shrink. Take your heat gun. Your heat gun or your heat source. And that's melted. So I also like to twist this. That way little as wire as possible can get to that eye pipe. So if you want to show them how we've got this tucked in here. You can see our twist, both sides. I'll push forward and that tucks it down as much as possible. So now all we've got left, we just got to make sure that nothing's showing there. Then when I put this iPilot on, it'll suppress it down. One thing you've really got to watch out for this, we get a lot of calls of this connection here. You can see the pins, there's 5 pins in there. You want this to go on as straight as possible, because if not, it will bend those pins and your iPilot will not work. So what I like to do is I'll wiggle just a little bit until I get that first snap, and then it is a very hard connection. Sometimes you got to take your palm, and then no yellow showing is a good connection. And I always take this connection and stuff it here, and then just line it up. As you can see, just make sure those stay down there, and your head goes on as so. And then at this point, you just have your 4 bottom housing screws. at this point, your shaft assembly is done. Just remove your old prop from your old assembly and place it on the new, and you're ready to go. Please like and subscribe to our channel, as we'll be going through Ultrex repairs, Garmin repairs, Lowrance. We're going to be doing some product reviews, product comparisons. So just like and subscribe to our channel, and thanks for using us.